Welcome to a special edition of the Emerging Civil War podcast. I'm Chris Mikowski with a little bit of news from Dalton, Georgia, and my friend Bob Jenkins. Bob, how are you today?
Great, Chris. Thank you for having me.
You have some really great stuff going on with a preservation project that you're focused on at Rocky Face Ridge, and some good news to share along that, but also just kind of needing some help with some of the work you're doing. And so I thought it'd be good for us to chat a little bit. First of all, I've got a PowerPoint presentation I'm going to bring up just of some photos of the
Sure.
work that you guys are doing. So let me do that for you. And oh, look, there's an action photo of Bob Jenkins at the top of Rocky Face Ridge, huh?
Well, you know it's me if my mouth is running. And Chris, I'm fortunate to I wear several hats, but I'm fortunate to be president of something called Save the Dalton Battlefields, and it's an organization that our mission is to try to stay ahead of the bulldozers in Whitfield County. Dalton and Whitfield County have more earthworks, more Civil War earthworks than any other county in the nation. There were other Cobb County, Marietta, Smyrna, Kennesaw, everybody is familiar with in Northwest Atlanta. They used to have that distinction, but unfortunately, development of Atlanta and suburbia Atlanta throughout the 1960s, 70s, 80s, and continuing through now, they lost that. And we're situated about an hour and a half northwest of Atlanta, up I-75, and about 30 minutes southeast of Chattanooga, just across the Georgia line. And so the bulldozers are coming, and we can hear them. So we're concerned about that, and grateful for all the support to be able to get as much of that preserved as we can.
Now, let me bring up a map that the American Battlefield Trust put together. And this is going to highlight kind of in this area here some of the works that you're talking about with this current phase. But a lot of people don't even
Yes.
necessarily know about Rocky Face Ridge. They sort of think about Joe Johnson takes over, Dalton, Resaca, and well, Rocky Face Ridge is kind of the first step in all of that.
That's right, Chris. Dalton and the battles around Dalton is the first chapter in the Atlanta campaign, or the campaign for Georgia. And you can't tell the story of the Atlanta campaign without starting at the beginning, and the beginning was here. Dalton and Resaca are twins. They go together. Resaca and Dalton happened really on the right back to back. The first week of May 1864, when Sherman came into Georgia with his three armies, his army group of just over 100,000 men. And there was fighting and several battles around places like Tunnel Hill, Rocky Face Ridge, Crow Valley, Potato Hill, Varnell Station, Mill Creek Gap, and Doug Gap. And Doug Gap may be the most famous of those names that I've just given to you. But many people have heard of many of these names that I just rattled off, but maybe not associated them with Dalton, because it's not called the Battle of Dalton. It's called, each of these events is the Battle at Doug Gap Mountain, or the Battle at Rocky Face Ridge, and so forth. And
And
and go ahead. You're looking at a map from American Battlefield Trust, and that area in blue that you see is approximately 1,000 acres that Whitfield County, and through the efforts of several organizations, including Save the Dalton Battlefields, has been able to, and with the huge support of American Battlefield Trust and its predecessor entity, was able to save about 10 years ago, and that park has now been opened about 5 or 6 years now.
Having stood on the basically the left side of this map, looking at the front of Rocky Face Ridge, it is a daunting piece of ground. And then I
Yes.
was privileged enough to go to the top of the ridge with you through this great park you guys have and the trail system. And so standing on there looking down, and it's like a razor's edge thickness at the top. It's an amazing piece of topography.
Yeah, it really is. Northwest Georgia is a bit unique to the rest of the state of Georgia. You have the mountains in the top third, northern third of the state. You have the Piedmont, or hills and valleys, in the middle, and the southern end is the coastal plain or flat. But in Northwest Georgia, it's even more unique. We're known as the land of ridge and valley. And imagine, we look more like mesas out in Arizona or something, but with trees on them. And but imagine these long, like an old washboard, these long finger-like ridges running northeast to southwest, cutting from Tennessee and North Carolina to the southwest toward the Alabama state line. And in between each of these, there may be a valley of 5 to 10 to 15 miles wide. And so these make a natural defensive make for a natural defensive terrain. And one of those sits just above Dalton that is Rocky Face Ridge.
Now, I'll point out here, we've got the blue area, which is the part that's preserved. There's a lot of non-preserved land that we're looking at on this map. And so that's kind of what you guys are now focusing on, is trying to protect some of that, correct?
That is correct. Where the arrow's pointing in the green rectangle to the bottom center is the area in question, and it's for the blue area is Rocky Face Ridge Park, the approximately 1,000 acres up to the top. The brown areas are also portions of properties that have been preserved that are now under the county's auspices with battlefield protection, conservation easements, and protection that will one day hopefully be a part of a larger park system. And one of those the property that we're working to acquire now is a 61 and a half acre tract that's in that rectangle, that green rectangle. And that sits at the foot of the southern end of Rocky Face Ridge, the half that is north of I-75 that splits through the ridge at Mill Creek Gap.
And you can see that right here on the map here. And I'm going to
That's
back
right.
up real quick to this picture of you, because we can see that highway kind of running through here.
Yes,
Off your hands as well.
that's right. And if you could, and go back to my hands for a minute, the property in question is all of that green that's down that slope.
Okay.
That's correct. That is the property. There's a portion of the property that's at the bottom, and then it steadily rises to nearly the summit. And so from just at the lip of the summit all the way down to the bottom is this 65 or 61 and a half acres that we're looking to save. And
So
it is I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, I was going to have us start looking at some of these pictures because they're pretty extraordinary. Go ahead and keep going.
Yeah, anybody that questions what I opened with by explaining that Whitfield County and Dalton have more earthworks than any other county in the nation, come to Dalton and let me take you around and show you. And I'll turn the light on for you here, and with some other friends of ours here, and we'll show you just what we mean. What you're looking at there is the Washington Artillery, or also Captain Stanford's Mississippi Battery site. That site is toward the bottom of the property, and you're looking out across toward Blue Mountain, which is where Sherman's field headquarters was located during his week here in Dalton, approximately May 7 to May 12, when he was at Tunnel Hill and at Blue Mountain. But you're looking at an artillery battery site that saw action in February 1864 when there was a demonstration here. The big fighting in May 1864. In August 1864, African American troops came in the form of the 14th United States Colored Infantry. They got off a train just west of here and deployed across this field to surprise some of Wheeler's Confederate cavalry that was on a raid up in this part of the state at the time. And then a fourth time this site saw action was on October 13, 1864. So February, May, August, and October, all in 1864, this property saw Civil War combat.
And this is, you mentioned earlier to me, the property that really kind of kicked off a lot of this initiative right now.
It is. It's been in our sights for 20 years to try to save this property, and it's become available in the last year. And we're grateful for the owners of the property have been very gracious. They're sensitive to the earthworks and to its historical significance, and so we're just very, very fortunate that it's sort of all come together. And we're very, very grateful for the leadership and support of American Battlefield Trust. And also, this property also has a conservation significance because it's on the slope of the mountain, the side of the hill. The conservation people are very interested in preserving this property so that we don't have a significant erosion problem, unfortunately, like what you saw in North Carolina with the hurricane last year. That could happen here with this property. Our ecosystem with these ridges is very, very fragile, and it doesn't take much for significant erosion to occur on the slopes of these ridges.
Very good. So as we move on, here we've got a stone wall that's still existing.
That's right. That's right. There are at least six lunettes, or lunar shape, or eyebrow, or crescent moon shaped lunettes. It's a French word, but it's basically a little their version of what you think of as a rifle pit, where a company, maybe 20 to 40 men, would have used, perhaps 12 to 20 to double that, could have used that. And in this case, there were elements of Baker's Alabama Brigade, the 54th Alabama, that participated along the slope of this ridge. And these are approximately 175 to 100 yards apart, going up the side of one of these finger ridges, the one that I had you point at in that first slide.
Here we'll take a
So,
look at this next one. Here's a very steep looking piece of
yeah,
ground.
that's toward the top, and that is where Stovall's Georgia Brigade, primarily from, well, from all over the state, but most of them were from Cobb County and Paulding County, 40th, 41st, 42nd Georgia, also 54th Georgia, I believe. And some of them were from east of Atlanta as well. But that is an earthwork that runs up the side of the ridge. And what's interesting is, in some of these lunettes are almost all rock, stacked rock, while
Mhm.
other lunettes are almost all dirt and dug out. Um, but and then some are about half and half, and so it has to do with the terrain that they had to work with. Uh, if there was rock and hard soil that couldn't be dug very well, for example. But here you see, this is more of a dug wall or earthwork line, and that's approximately 4 to 6 feet in height, just to give you a
Wow.
perspective.
Wow. Yeah, and like earthworks are notoriously difficult to photograph, but I can see pretty
Yes,
clearly here where this is, and here's kind of
y-
the ditch, and
that's
it's a
right.
pretty amazing structure that still exists like that.
Yeah.
Let me jump over to this one here.
That's getting up to the crescent toward the very top of the property, and you are looking generally south, and you're looking at a battery position. Imagine rolling guns up to the top of Rocky Face Ridge, but they did, and or pulling them by horse or mule. And that is the position of Garrity's Alabama battery, situated at the point of the top of that southern end of the north half of Rocky Face Ridge. To the looking south past the battery site, you see it drops off significantly. And as it drops off, it begins to be picked up by that finger ridge with those lunettes that I pointed out, that you showed just before. And then the high ground to the distance in the center is the south half of Rocky Face Ridge. That northern point of the south half is sometimes referred to as Buzzard's Roost. And then Dug Gap Mountain is behind that. It would continue on that ridge about another 3.5 to 4 miles south of that. And then off in the distance to the right is Dogwood Valley. And then the high ground, yes, the high ground you're pointing at is known as Johns Mountain and the Pocket. And then there's a little back door, or a way to slip around Dalton through Snake Creek Gap, and that's the way to Snake Creek Gap.
Very good. One last photo to take a look at here. Pretty
Yeah,
daunting.
you're looking back up at that battery from down the hill a little ways. You're between the um what I've termed them as lunettes 1 through 6, one being at the bottom and 6 being at the highest. There could be up to 3 more lunettes. So there could be as many as 9 on the side of the ridge, but that we've identified 6 and have them, um, those photos. But you're between lunette number 6 and Garrity's battery at this point.
Wow. Wow. So if somebody wants to participate in helping to save these earthworks, how can folks get involved with Save the
Yeah,
Dalton Battlefields?
Yes, absolutely. We have a Facebook page, Save the Dalton Battlefields, if you want to go to that and check it out. Or you can contact me. I'm very easy to find. I'm an attorney in Dalton, Georgia. So if you just type Bob Jenkins, Dalton, Georgia, you'll find me and can send me an email. I'm happy to give you details, happy to send you information, further information about us and what we're about. And happy to give a tour to anybody that wants to get out and see some of these earthworks up close and personal.
Now, you've
So
already patched together a pretty neat coalition of folks that are working on this preservation property. You want to talk a little bit about the different interests who are recognizing how important this is?
absolutely, we've been blessed to have support from all over, both locally and in our region and state, and all over the nation. And in fact, um, and I should start off with American Battlefield Trust. This would not be possible without their leadership. Um, and others that have participated in battlefield preservation across the country will know what I'm talking about. But the folks at American Battlefield Trust are the heavy hitters. They typically come in with and help us with all of the big heavy lifting, various environmental studies, surveys, appraisals, these types of things. They'll help with those and cover. They also will help us with matching federal grant monies. We have, in this case, Open Space Institute, which is a national conservation organization based in New York, with a regional office in Chattanooga, has been a tremendous friend in helping us with this property because of the conservation needs as I was describing, and there have been some other conservation groups as well. Georgia Battlefields Association is one of our supporters, and we have several trusts, the Frank Pierce Foundation out of Chattanooga, Frank P. Pierce Foundation from Chattanooga, Georgia Civil War Commission, um, and a number of other. We've had a number of Civil War roundtables across the country, including from Chicago, from the Northern Chicago roundtable. From entities from Arizona and Colorado and California and Massachusetts, all over the country, Kentucky,
And it's
and the
gone
United
global too,
Kingdom.
right?
I'd be remiss if I didn't tell our friends across the pond the Civil War Roundtable of the United Kingdom has contributed in a meaningful, significant way to this project. We had to raise $677,000 for this 61 acre, approximately 11,000 an acre tract. And that's big money for us. That may not be for Atlanta or Virginia or New York or other parts of the country, but that was certainly a significant amount to raise for us. And I'm pleased to report that we were about 44,000 short as of a week ago, but over the weekend we have received notice that two additional grants have come in. One for, and those two will cover our needs. So we have reached the summit of our goal for this. We are still looking for contributions to help us with some infrastructure. We'll need some funding for signage and for some parking. This is going to be a low intensity. There may be some that may ask about what type of use will the property have. This property will be a low density. We're not talking, this will not have infrastructure in it other than hiking trails. It will be hiking, conservation. We anticipate it remaining hardwood throughout, and so it's going to have a conservation as well as an historic easement on it, but it will not probably have biking, for example, on it. It will be hiking only, historic markers, and hiking trails, and interpretive signs, and some gravel road parking. That's what we anticipate this property to look like and be
Fantastic.
part of the profile of Rocky Face Ridge Park.
You guys continue to do great work. We'll make sure we include a link so that folks can get involved if they want and follow. Bob, thanks so much for spending a few minutes with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you at Emerging Civil War, and all my friends up your way. Thanks again for all you do.
Thank you as well, Bob. I'm Chris Mikowski for Bob Jenkins and the Emerging Civil War podcast. We'll see you online and on the battlefield.